All right. So I've all spoken to you yesterday about your performances during our seminars, and everybody has something to work on. Okay. Remember the point that I mentioned about being concise, the balance between being concise and being spontaneous. So sometimes some of you would spend too much time deliberate on what you are going to say, and you miss the opportunity to speak, right? And some of you are spending too much time gathering your thoughts while speaking. So both are bad. So make sure that when you speak, be spontaneous, but at the same time, try to be concise, all right? And I cannot lead you forever. So today, I'm going to sit behind the camera and let you to try to get control and assume more leadership roles, all right? I imagine there will be chaos, but it's okay, all right? So remember the rules. Don't raise your hand when you speak, but also only one person speak at any given time. All right? One person speak at a time. I wish you good luck. I won't select a person to open our discussion today. So I'll just say, let's begin our discussion for chapter 10, and you may begin. All right? Okay, and another thing, before you speak, use the microphone. I'll leave you this one so you have two microphones, okay? Are you ready? All right, 1 second. One last minute before we begin. Gather your thoughts. Think what you want to discuss the most. And after 1 minute, we begin.
Okay, so first I want to discuss my question. It's in the very center of the blackboard. It says, very horrible handwriting, but it says, what's the meaning of the car accident? How does it emphasize the family's foolishness, and how is it being foreshadowing the future choice of Tara? That's my question. I'll give you some time to read it. So that's more like a question set, so kind of complicated to answer. I'm going to share my own thoughts first. So I think the car accident because dad decided to drive at night and finally leads the whole family hurt and hurts Tara. But mom did not give Tara a chance to have the good therapy, but used like kind of special way to heal him, like energy or mind stuffs or kind of religious things to heal Tara after the accident. So I think this makes Tara thinks or start doubting the rightness of Mormon or her family's rightness. Also, the character Sean's added in and start with kind of opposite with dad because Sean left the home and had a job himself, and also Sean healed or not healed Tara was his kind of violent way but effective. So it's kind of difference between two characters, Sean and Dad, and that kind of influenced Tara's future choice.
I partially agree with William, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I feel like the fact that what actually shows particularly the dad, his foolishness is the fact that not because he drove at night, but the fact that he did it the second time. Because from the text we can see that from some of the dialogues, they did it last time, and I think they also got hurt, and it was really bad, like this time. So it was actually the fact that he didn't learn his lesson. And then later on, at the very end of, like, the very last page, it was like, the dad she wanted the dad to be, like the person who wouldn't fling her into a storm, and if she was hurt, would make her whole. And this is probably, I feel like this is a little bit foreshadowing, but I'm not sure, to like how this is like a transition point of how Tara is like starting to get thoughts of leaving the family, or just like disagree, or not really disagree, just like being different from the family, I guess.
I feel like
Spoilers.
okay.
I feel like she actually didn't just get the idea. Like she's been thinking a little bit different and like doubting her like family's religion and thinking for a while. Like um from when she wanted to go to school from I think a few chapters back, when she got hurt again by her dad. Like not directly by her dad, but like her dad would be like a partial reason of why she got hurt, which is pretty much the same in this chapter because if dad hadn't decided to like go drive in the storm at night for a second time and also go full speed in the middle of a storm, then like her neck wouldn't have this problem. And the last sentence also, who if I was hurt would make me whole, a dad that would like actually help her and like would care for her. Like if in these past chapters when Tara's gotten hurt, like her dad hasn't actually done anything, like hasn't done much or anything. Like even when her neck is like when it couldn't move, it hasn't mentioned anything that her dad has done. So I feel like she's just been doubting her dad a lot. And also, the make me feel whole would probably be a reference from Sean, who actually fixed her neck. So, yeah.
I agree almost. I almost absolutely agree with the three speakers. And first, I understand that that is foolish to drive through the night. Also my question that I had is like why is that so determined to drive through the storm? So we can see that first dad drives the second time. The second like the reason he drives both in the night and he drives full speed is because he believed like the angels are protecting him. Um, like he has said, I won't drive faster than our angels will fly, and also connecting to what Tara said at last, she wants a person that won't fling her into the storm, and if she was hurt, will make her whole. Dad, yes, he almost doesn't did anything to Tara when she was hurt. He was only like confirming Tara that the angels or the religious can help her.
William, does that answer your question?
Sorry, Richard, I didn't think you answered my question. I'm so sorry. But what the true things I want to say is that I just made a short conclusion of the this period of discussion. I think that I all agree with all three speakers. I dare expect you, sorry, or two. So, Tara had starting a bit of changing during these two chapters, like chapter 9 and chapter 10, since she has been reaching the outside world. For example, like Sean and Charles, we mentioned the last time. So, I do think that chapter 9 and chapter 10 will be kind of changing point for the life of Tara. If we were put ourselves in the view of Tara at that time, it might be like the changing point of her life and also the point of the story.
Something you mentioned is that this is a changing point, mostly because she's involved with Sean and Charles. Something I thought interesting about Sean was like, do we think that Sean is a good person? Like, obviously, he made her whole and all, and he suggested going to the chiropractor. So I wanted to ask, do you guys think that Dad has a lasting influence on Sean, or do you think maybe he goes to the doctor, goes to the chiropractor?
Uh, in my opinion, it's like Sean is a partly good person, but he do heals Tara, but also we can see that he heals Tara in a violent way. So it's hard to say that he is always so kind to others. Also, it has let me see in this page. I think it's page 85. It has says like, yeah, Sean was in jail the night that the car crashed, having been in some kind of brawl. So from that we can see sometimes Sean is a bit too violent. So it's hard to say that he will always be a good and kind person.
I mean, as Tara mentioned, like in this chapter as well, Sean appears to her more as a legend rather than like a person like she knew personally, because like they hadn't like had contacts for a long time, and we don't know much about Sean because like there's been like rumors about him being like the very violent person, and yeah, the way that he heals Tara is pretty violent, but like I just think that he may have done this because Tara wouldn't let him do it if he asked first. Like he's just like, "Can I fix your neck?" And Tara, like maybe knowing the rumors and hearing the rumors, would be like, "Oh no, what are you gonna do to me?" And like just refuse or something like that. I'm not sure, but that's just a guess. I sort of disagree with Jenny. I'm sorry. So first of all, page 87, like the part before paragraph 1, it mentions something about how someone said Sean wasn't really bad. He was just like, he had a reputation for being unbeatable. So I feel like that was like carved into his personality. And actually, Sean actually told Tara, was like, she needs to fix it. She needs to go to the doctor. And then the how Tara responds wasn't really like, I don't know how to put it. So she just said nope, and mom will fix it. So her response was like, Sean knew that Tara wasn't going to accept his plan of like helping her. So Sean just did it, I guess.
I'm just gonna respond to Richard's comment. Richard talked about Sean being violent and being violent a good thing. However, I believe that Sean being violent is a good thing because I feel like that violent can bring Tara out of her bubble and stop making her modest. And also, like with the chiropractor, I agree with Jenny's views. Like if Sean told Tara, "Oh, I'm gonna do it," no way she's gonna say yes and allow him. He had to show her why, yeah, going to a hospital is important, and maybe that's just gonna open her eyes to a new world.
So, did you want to talk? Okay. So then the general opinion of the group is that Sean is a brother that cares for Tara, but he might be a bit violent sometimes? Or was it? The way he shows. He might be a bit rash sometimes. Right. Okay. Right. Because of his reputation and all. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, should we move on to a next question?
You three have been awfully quiet this seminar. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, you have been awfully quiet this seminar.
So which page is it though? During the car accident. Page 85, paragraph 5. The police arrived and then an ambulance. I don't know who called them. Who do you think called the ambulance?
Someone passed by.
I thought they're in the field.
Yeah, I thought they were like in a field. I don't think people would notice even if they pass by.
I think it's just perhaps somebody who drives past by, because it had mentioned like Dad stepped into a beam from the broken headlights, so the headlight was still on. So if someone drives past, I think they can see that there's a light there, and because the broken headlights, it have to be somehow like broken on the ground. It cannot be like so it's obvious like there's a light and it's not on the road, and it's not moving, so it's like it's a broken car. So it's somewhat obvious.
Just quick clarification. So I actually have like the same question as Coco. So I feel like how about we just first deny the possibility that someone else called it? Just no. We just talk about who do you think is the most likely to call the police and ambulance?
For the sake of the discussion, I believe it was Dad. Huh? Why would it be Dad? First of all, after all, so first off, after they made sure that Tara was okay, so I'd like to summarize two things. First of all, Mom couldn't have been the one who called the ambulance. Mom is far too scared of Dad to actually make a move like that. Secondly, after they found Tara, what was it? And stood around it awkwardly, shaking, either from the cold or from shock. We didn't look at Dad, didn't want to accuse. The police arrived. That means that they were standing around a van. When you get into a car crash, normally you get into a car crash, you get out the car and you call the police and they come and deal with your stuff. But why were they standing there if no one called the police? Which means that obviously, since Dad was standing there, since Dad didn't want to move the van, didn't want to find his own way out, obviously he was the one who called the police. Right?
Somewhat very reasonable. I don't agree with Styles either, sorry. I think it's Mom who called the ambulance because we have a few examples or reasons. First, it's in the chapter 9, like Mom has chapter 9 or chapter 8. It's Mom who's been supporting Tara to sing and doing the recital, so we can see since I think it's chapter 8, Mom has been kind of in the middle or supporting Tara between Tara and Dad. And in chapter 10, this chapter, Mom was like, shouldn't we drive slower when Dad like doubled Richard's speed and put the family in a very dangerous situation? So Mother is way kind of like a character who's between Dad and Tara and sings more for Tara than for Dad. I mean, sings more for Tara, so I think it's Mom who called the ambulance.
So I don't agree. I think it's not Dad, so I don't agree with Zal. But I also don't agree with William's reasons of why it is Dad. I know, but because it said that on page 85, we listened to the radio while the cop asked Dad why the van wasn't insured and why he removed the seats and seat belts. So why would Dad call the cops and like find trouble for himself? Like his van isn't insured. Why would he call the cops?
For the sake of the whole family's safety and life.
It's like how Dad called the police. I thought about it, and it's actually quite possible because the rest of the family, I don't think that like they will call the cop. Like probably Dad just like he just don't want to admit that how sometimes the police and doctor helps, but like in these kind of situations, he thought about it and he called the ambulance and the police.
I agree with Coco and I guess Style. I guess it kind of makes sense because as we know, Dad is basically like full-on Mormon, like everything religion, and he's definitely not going to admit that like something to do with the government. For example, in this case, the police, the ambulance, like the doctors, they're actually like we actually need them because yeah, he's Mormon. That's just his personality. So like if he did, he wouldn't tell. But like now, they actually really need police and ambulance. So yeah.
Sure. I'm not sure because I feel like in the previous chapters, something like this have like happened before. I forgot how it. I don't know.
In the previous chapter, there
Not-
were
not
many
in the
trouble,
fire.
but they are still at home or near home, so they can find
She
people.
thinks that
Oh,
dad said
God.
should we call ambulance?
Oh.
That chapter.
Oh yeah, Dad asked, should we call it an ambulance?
Well, Tara thinks.
It was Mom.
I
You mean about the
No, Tara
chapter?
said I think Dad said should we call ambulance? Tara said Dad.
Yeah, because he
You guys mean
Last
the
call.
accident?
I think it's the last. It's the.
It was some incident where somebody got like majorly hurt.
It's
And
like
then-
when they crash into
And
a
then,
light
their
pole.
own like.
That
their
one
own
was the
method of
farmer who was
recovery.
driving the tractor.
No, it was. I think it was Luke who
The
fell
farmer
asleep
who
at
was
the
driving
wheel.
the tractor called the police.
I also have a very interesting opinion. It's like, first, Dad was very against the ambulance, I think, because in his mind, medical was like somewhat dangerous. But he was also against the government and police. But I think Dad might call the police because first they have to get themselves out of this situation. Second, there is really no one helping them, and we can see down there, Dad first tried to, although this after the cops arrived, Dad first tried to call Tony, then he tried Sean, but after these two, he tried Rob and Hardy. So like, he was when he knew that there's no relatives and none of his sons are helping, perhaps he made this choice. And also, like, I think the ambulance was called by the police. So the first is that the police arrived, then the ambulance. So I think there is a possibility that Dad called the police called the ambulance.
I mean, every
I
car
think
crash
the
there's
time is
ambulance.
almost running out.
Every car crash there's like
I
ambulance
don't
and
think
a
that Dad
police.
actually believes that medicine is like poison and doctors will kill you. He's just saying it because he wants his kids to be like as Mormon as he is, just to believe in his religion.
This is a guess.
I feel like it was.
Yeah, like I agree with that. Like there's a possibility that it's Dad who called the ambulance and the police. Police, maybe, like we know he believes so deep in his belief and which against the government, but in the very inner heart, maybe he know that like through the several accidents, he had like realized that sometimes like the hospital and the government sometimes is really more efficient than his religious way. So yeah, I agree with the point that he is just didn't want to admit that.
I feel like it's Richard because in the previous chapters, Tara can see Richard reading books like self-studying by himself in the basement. So I think he's against the no school thing. Like he's been self-studying even though Dad doesn't allow them to.
I think this question is almost tough, so is there any more questions? This one is quite stuck. Yeah.
Anyone have a question that they want to discuss that we can finish
Can I have a question?
It's on the left up corner of the complicate. And what's the difference between Sean and Charles to Tara? I like not on the physical way, but mental.
I think it's like first Sean is he's mentally violent. Also he gets his own work, and he doesn't absolutely follows Mormon, because I don't know if he follows Mormon a bit or not. And also he likes to, yeah, do something by himself. Unlike dad likes to like tell Tara everything is okay and let mom do the rest of work.
I feel like I think Tara sees Sean as a father figure that she wants to have instead of like a brother,
Yeah.
more like a father figure.
I think it's really obvious. Charles is Kara's crush, and Sean is the brother.
More like a father figure.
Is it not obvious? The role. Yeah, the role. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption, but I think it's a good way to recap what just happened. Okay, how many questions did we manage to? Two. Remind me what the first. Can I get a microphone? Three. I'm sorry, I missed the first question. William, can you remind us what were we talking about?
Accident. How does it emphasize family influences, and how is it being foreshadowed in the future choice of Tara?
Okay.
Three questions.
All right. So this is the first time that I really just focused and began to listen to your interactions, and I observed many details that I hadn't noticed for the first time. So I think several good things from Zio especially. Zio had great eye contact, especially when Richard is speaking. Zio, that's great. All right, and then between the first question and the second question, it's Zio who asked for a consensus. All right, and then Zio asked if we should move on to the next. I think that's very good. If this is a point gaining context, Zai will be the winner this time. But this is not, okay? All right. And Jesse and Jenny also asked people who are more quiet to speak. That's good too, because we want our group to be supportive of each other and help each other to grow, okay? And Zayo, you had when we talk about the second question, did you intentionally put on an act? You said that something about dad?
Dad's the one called dad.
Oh, yeah. If dad's the one who called the ambulance. You said, oh, that's obvious dad, or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Why is it that?
Did you do that intentionally?
Yeah. Like that. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right. So, overall, I think the second round of discussion is better than the first. Can you now summarize what each person who has spoken about question one, what's their viewpoint and perspective? What is William's perspective about question one? He stated his opinion first. Do you still remember?
William thinks like. I remember William thinks like this could be a turning point for Tara. Like she began to question if Mormon is correct and whether like that is really good or what. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Interesting. And then I think Zio moved to whether Zio mentioned Sean and Charles, and we begin to discuss whether Sean is a good person or not, or good influence to Tara or not. And then Richard mentioned that Sean is, because he's violent, so he's not good, right?
He could be. We're not sure.
All right. And then Jenny spoke. Can someone remind me what's Jenny's viewpoint about Sean?
You again?
Somebody who hasn't spoken yet, or
I think Jenny sings like almost same as my idea. It's like kind of a bit different, but almost the same.
Jenny mentioned Sean is more like a legend to Tara, right?
Yeah, more like that kind of untouchable, but now Sean goes into real life and kind of plays a kind of important role in Tara's life.
So has Jenny decided Sean is a good person or best person yet?
A good person, but not the best.
Is that true? Okay. And then Jessie says she disagrees, but I missed what she disagrees with. Can someone else remind me what Jessie disagrees with? How about the person who sits closest to Jessie? Go ahead, Cookie. Did you forget?
I did.
Okay. All right. So Jessie mentioned something about that because Sean found out that Tara refuses to go to the doctor and she believes in mom. And then Sean gets the conclusion that she won't be willing to accept his help to heal them. And so why does Jenny say that? Jessie say that? What's her conclusion?
That he's violent, but he how that Sean asked Tara and Tara would just refuse and he just did it.
So how is that related to what we were just discussing? Whether that Sean's a good person or not? Are you answering to that, responding to that question?
Yeah, because technically he's still trying to help Tara, but just in a different way because the violence was necessary.
So you see, many people have spoken, but others did not get your conclusion, right? So I suggest, how can you do better to make sure that other people get what's your point, your main point?
Stand up and speak.
What?
Stand up and speak.
Stand up.
Yes.
Stand up when you conclude.
Stand up.
State point number 1, 2, 3, and stand up to conclude.
All right.
Be like Martin Luther King Jr.
Point 1, point 2.
Maybe something less dramatic.
Raise your voice a bit louder when you're concluding.
I think so. When you are concluding something, just use one simple and concise sentence to summarize why you just said the things you just said. Okay. So, Jessie, if you have the chance now, how would you summarize your comment?
I have a conclusion. Because Tara refused multiple times, so Sean thought that the violence was necessary and he just did it. It's basically.
And then how is it connected to the previous questions we were discussing? Whether Sean is a good person or not.
Because Sean is still trying to help Tara.
So?
So he's technically a good person.
You have to say, so he is a good person.
God.
Okay? Alright. Else, others want to respond. Okay? And after Jessie, I think it's Ruixin who spoke. Ruixin said, violence is actually a good thing to Tara because it helps Tara to get her out of her bubble. So, what's your conclusion? And how is that connected to the question that whether he's a good person or not?
Violence is a good thing.
So he's a good person.
So he is a good person. So it helps Tara get out of her bubble.
That person can also help her get her out of the bubble.
Sean being violent is a good thing. So it helps Tara get out of her bubble.
So your conclusion is because Sean helps her to get off the bubble, then he is a good person.
Yes.
Is that your reasoning?
Sean expresses his kindness in a violent way.
And also, we didn't touch on that. Yes, Tara mentioned that he's violent. He has he always get involved with fights or something bad. But can he be bad with the outside world but good to his family?
Yes.
Does that make him a good person or a bad person?
You can't just say good person, bad person, like when you terminate a person. You can't just really say that.
They're in the gray area.
So you have to say that. Your discussion was good or bad. You never said gray area. You never mentioned gray area previously, right? So maybe you should go into that deeper next time. So the world is not 二元.
Like fake
Black or white.
Yes.
You have gradient and you have gray.
Gradient.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but yeah, I think this is a really good discussion. This is really much better than I have expected. Okay, good job, guys.
No kidding.
All right, class dismissed.
Still represent